The Athenian speeches that you've got to look at in the exam are a really important bit of evidence that tells you about that absolutely critical topic of Athens' relationship and her allies. Here's a picture of Pericles giving his very famous "not a ship, not a horse, not a hoplite" speech in 444 BC. It's at the Pnyx where the Athenian assembly met. Here's the picture of the Pnyx today. Now, the Athenian speakers that you've got to look at for your exam are, first of all, the Athenian delegate at the debate at Sparta, Pericles' funeral oration, Cleon and Diodotus, the Melian Dialogue, and Euphemus at Camarina. Now, the way to look at these speeches is you've got to know, first of all, what's the context of the speech, but secondly, what are the key themes of the speech. And these are the key themes that have been previously asked: natural superiority, the Athenians as dictators, lack of concern for others. What you'll find about the Athenian speeches is that they are all reasonably similar in tone and message to each other. Let's look at the first Athenian speech, which is the Athenian delegate at the debate at Sparta. Remember, the context of the speech is the Athenian siege of Potidea. Remember, Athenian actions before the debate at Sparta that had angered the Peloponnese, such as Corcyra, the Megarian decree, and the continued control over Aegina. The Athenian speech is very defensive. Maybe there's a little bit of arrogance there. Certainly there's a bit of threat towards Sparta. As with all Athenian speeches, there's always there's also then a big chunk of the speech is dedicated towards how Athens is actually fair to her own allies. So she says that she doesn't take the empire by force. The allies begged us to leave them. But then there's a comparison with Sparta, that Sparta would do exactly the same as the Athenians would do if they were in their position. The Spartans have arranged the Peloponnese to suit yourselves. Our subjects do not appreciate their equal treatment, very similar to the Cleon speech. And certainly there's an idea that the Athenians are getting a bit of a bad deal by the allies, complaining at them all the time, that they actually give them a fairer deal than they had under the Persians. There's the final bit of the Athenian speech, which is the threat to Sparta. We shall meet you in any and every field of action you may choose. So again, a reference to the Persian wars, a reference to Athenian superiority, and a reference to the treatment of allies. The second speech is the Pericles speech in 430 BC, where the Athenians are generally demoralized because of the onset of the plague, the second Peloponnesian invasion of Attica, and the idea that the Athenians want to send peace envoys, which Pericles is completely against. The great thing about this speech is that you do get a little bit of a sense of Pericles disciplining the Athenians. And yet, essentially, this is a pep talk. He initially criticizes them, but then G's them up by saying how great the Athenians are. He talks about the Athenian navy. And again, there's a reference to the Persian Wars through the link about the reputation of the ancestors. You must not fall below the standards of your fathers. And then, again, we've got a reference to how the allies are treated. And this one is a real headline grabber, isn't it? Your empire is a tyranny. It may have been wrong to take it. It's dangerous to let it go. The Athenians have incurred hatred from their allies. The third speech is Cleon versus Diodotus. What's the context? The Mytilene revolt has been defeated. The Athenians are reconsidering their initial nasty decision to execute the entire population. Similarities and differences are the way to learn this. If you know the similarities and you know the differences, you'll be able to nail any Cleon Diodotus question. There are some similarities. Don't fall into the trap that Cleon is the baddie and Diodotus is the goodie. They're both seeing everything from Athens' perspective and what would best benefit the Athenians. Both of them view the allies as cash cows. How do they disagree? Well, first they disagree about how to prevent future revolts. They disagree about how the allies feel about good administration. That Cleon says they don't appreciate it. They're always constantly plotting. They disagree, obviously, about the punishment. And they also disagree about the standard of justice. The next speech, the fourth speech, is the real savage speech, and it's the Melian Dialogue. Again, consider the context that Athens is attacking one of the neutral islands left in the Aegean. The Athenian arguments are very heavy-handed. You've got an Athenian delegation and the Melian oligarchs. The Melians are essentially just asking the Athenians to be friends. The Athenians dismiss this out of hand. The strong do what they have the power to do. By not destroying you, we will profit from you. It's a law of nature to rule one can. They're much, much more savage. The final speech is the debate at Camarina between Euphemus and Hermocrates. Euphemus's arguments are again very similar to the previous Athenian ones. Reference to the Persian Wars, largest fleet, greatest courage. The Ionian Greeks deserve enslavement. Athenian self-interest, strong Athens and a weak Syracuse, and this time Athenian self-interest marries with Camarinian self-interest. Benefit of Athens, and the idea that it's not actually Syracuse that's trying to take over, it's not actually Athens trying to take over Sicily, it's Syracuse. So again, just keep linking your Athenian speeches to those key themes.